What's going on, prospectors? Dig Daddy out here in front of the shed, and today I wanted to touch on a subject with you guys about cleaning your dirt. Now, this topic's come up a couple of times, and people ask me, Dig Daddy, you keep talking about cleaning your dirt all the time. What are you talking about? And I want to share with you guys, dirt is dirt, and dirt gets dirty, but different dirt has different amounts of dirtiness to it, right? Sometimes you get pay dirt and it's nice and clean. You run it through your sluice and your water. You could take a drink out of it and you'd never know. Other times you get pay dirt that's straight from a mine, or it's just from an area that's really clay heavy and it's just full of silt. And you don't want to just go and straight up pan that. That's going to destroy your water. It'll make everything a mess. Get it all over yourself. That silt, you want to get rid of it. Two reasons. One, you want to separate that gold from those little particulates so they don't float off somewhere when you're actually panning your dirt. And two, you just want to clean it up. It's nasty to work with. It's a pain in the ass. And so I found that it makes sense to take a few minutes, take a little bit of time, ahead of time, clean that dirt up, and then when we go to run it on a Monday, it's a lot cleaner and a lot easier to work with, and I don't have to constantly replace my basin of water that I work with just because I ran some of this Roaring Camp dirt. Now, I love the Roaring Camp, but man, it is some dusty, dusty stuff. So when I get a bag in, I like to run it through a cleaning process, and I'm going to share that with you guys here today. So, you got to get a few things to start off with. Head on over here, and we're going to go over what we need. Alright, so first things first, you're going to need a water basin. You're going to need something to catch all that fine material that you don't want to lose, you don't want to get rid of, just because you want to run it a last time, just to be sure you're not losing any of your good stuff. Next, we have the big bucket. Now this bucket has a couple holes cut in it. Now that's to let the water flow out below the level that the classifier is going to be sitting at, so that the silt can flow down in there, the light stuff can flow out of the bucket into the catch basin, and all the heavier stuff, and hopefully the gold, stays at the bottom of this bucket. We have 3 classifiers here. Now, the key to getting this all separated out is we got to classify this material. That's going to help us separate the dust from the rocks, and the rocks that we don't want to run anyways, we're going to clean those out right up front. So what we got is a 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, and I believe that bottom one there is a 50 mesh. And that's going to catch most of the bigger material. The stuff that gets caught up at the top, we're going to toss that in a bucket so that we can crush at some point later. Everything below that is going to go into its own bucket to be mixed back up so we can reconstitute this pay dirt at the end, and that's what we're going to wind up using as our pay dirt in the end of it all. And next we just have some generic general buckets. This is where our material is going to go for holding while we're separating it all out. And of course, water. Got to have water, so we're going to have a hose ready. And ideally you haven't spent all your money on pay dirt, and you have yourself a little attachment that you can use for spray actuation to make it easier to spray everything down so you don't have to keep turning the water on and off. And of course, finally, our pay dirt, the material we need to clean up. So we're going to get everything set up here, and we're going to clean us some dirt. Alright, I also use a little hydroponic bucket mesh as a secondary mesh after I put the big rocks in there, just in case anything decides to work itself loose after I separate out. That'll help one final time to separate the really fine stuff off of the big rocks. One of the buckets I like to use to hold the dirt in, just so nothing falls over and I lose anything. And of course, you're probably going to want some sort of a scoop. So, we're going to start off opening up our dirt. Now, Roaring Camp usually ships a little bit wet, so we're going to need a lot of water to get everything classified out. Move this close to your setup so you don't drop any. put too powerful of water through it and blow everything out. We just kind of want to rinse it through like you normally would. Help get everything wet and separate it up. You don't want to overload it, otherwise things will get clogged up. And the reason we save these big rocks is because this is from an actual mine, and this is ore. So there's very well could be some more gold in here. I've crushed some before, and I have found more gold, so we save that. Things are going to get a little bit backlogged. Down here at the lower mesh, it likes to clog up. And so that's why you're going to want to clean off the upper meshes here and there, just so you can get down here to clean this off. Right here we're separating all the finest stuff from any of the gold we're going to catch anyways. Anything below this mesh is really going to be the fine stuff. Hopefully we will recover that as well, but this will help to make that process easier. There's still some more stuff on this one. I need one more bucket. Gently rinse it off there into our bucket. Find it best to kind of scoot everything to one side while it's here on the classifier. Makes it easier to dump it in the bucket. Now you can see why having this attachment makes this a lot easier. Alright, now we're ready for the next load. And so we'll just do this, repeat a couple times, and we'll move on to the next step. Alright. We got everything cleaned up and classified. As you can see, my yard is a huge red clay mess. Brown clay, whatever color clay you want to call this. But what we have now is the finest of the fines at the bottom of that bucket right there. We got the big stuff in this bucket. We got everything else in here. Now, I know there's probably a little bit of gold in there, some really fine stuff that slipped through that 50 mesh. So we're going to rinse that out next. And that is really just a matter of stirring it up, getting the light stuff to get into the water column and allow it to flow out of the bucket. And the only way to do that is just to spray water in there and create a little bit of a cyclone. And bring it a little closer so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm just creating a little cyclone in the tank, kind of like a blue bowl effect, except opposite. We're shooting all the light stuff out the top and up the sides. All the heavy stuff is forced back down into the center because that's where gravity and this whole cyclone effect is going to push it. So that means all the gold is either going to be at the bottom corners or right there in the middle of everything. But what this also means is a lot of this silt and soot and crap that we don't want in our dirt as we go through it is going to be out. It's going to be gone, and we won't ever have to deal with it again. Now, of course, there will always be a little bit in there. You just can't get away from it. But look at how much we're getting rid of already. Now, that's that much milkshake that's not going to be in the tub when we're running the dirt. And it'll make it just that much easier to go through. So, anytime you have really wet dirt that came from a mine or just has a lot of dust and dirt on it, I recommend doing this, especially if you have a lot of it. If you have a lot of it, you're going to want to do this just to kind of clean it. I mean, if you're just running out in the backyard, it doesn't really matter. But if you use a recirculating system, you're really going to want to clean it up first. At least myself, I don't like to replace my water all the time. So this is how I kind of help to not have to do that. By cleaning up the dirt a little bit to begin with, it makes it a lot easier to go through. And at the end of the day, we'll have some nice clean pay dirt that we can go through on a Monday. And yeah. Alright, I realized I might have been a little bit lacking on the last part of this process, so I wanted to come back and show you what we have at the bottom of the bucket. This is all the fine stuff. And I just repeatedly stir it up. Just stir it up over and over and over. Keep that dusty silt up in the water column. Keep it active, keep it live. Let it sit for a second, and then pour off anything that's still active up in the water. Again, the gold's at the bottom. Gold ain't going nowhere. The only time the gold's moving is right now. As soon as you stop agitating it, the gold's at the bottom. And then you can safely pour this stuff out, kind of shake it down. And you just always keep the actual dirt from hitting out that hole. This is where you kind of just want to actively watch what you're doing. That way you don't lose any of the fine gold. So in a manner of speaking, we're concentrating this down, getting all the lights out of here, and what we're going to be left with is really just going to be all the magnetics and the heavies. Getting rid of a lot of the crap we don't want to deal with anyways. And you can see the color of the sand has gotten really dark compared to where it started. Because all this light crap is gone now, and like I say, all we're left with is all the heavies. After a few times, you'll notice that the water doesn't get nearly as cloudy as it used to, and you're getting right about to the point where you can just dump it all in with everything else and call it a day. Alright, we are now at that point where we're going to mix it all together. Alright, and now we have our pay dirt. We have a mess, but we have our pay. So, final step, just pour this top layer off. I like to blast it one more time. This is going to stir everything up and mix everything together, as well as give me one last opportunity to get any of the dust off of there, or at least a little bit more. You're never going to get it all. It's constantly being made as everything grinds together. to pull it off gently. And voila. We now have a nice little bucket of pay dirt that we can use for our Monday night giveaways. Something nice and clean that we can go through easily without messing up the water too much. I mean, you're going to mess up some water somewhere, but at least in here I don't have to change this water every 2 days. This is just going to drain off, and that'll be that. And we'll take what we need. All right. So this has been Dig Daddy. Once again, in the backyard, showing you how I clean my dirt. It's a messy process, but it's well worth it. So I hope you learned something. I hope we all learned something today. Maybe about ourselves and about the dirt that we love. Tune in on Monday nights, BSing in the shed. Tune in Sunday mornings for, well, the pay dirt reviews. All right. Peace out.